In this video, I wanted to show you how working with real data can be very different from your homework assignments. For your homework assignment this week, you're working with a very sterile data set. However, in real life, when working with real data, you're going to find there's all kinds of problems that can happen. So I'm working with, again, this virtual data from a couple years ago. So I was going to show you how to do clustering, and I started running into all kinds of real-life problems, which I thought it would be really good to get on video to show you what happens and how much pre-processing work there is to do before you can even get to the algorithms. So to give you an example of this, I have this data set. Again, I had gotten the error message, it could only handle 1,000 rows. So I always showed you in the last video how to handle that. And I randomly selected 1,000 rows from my data set, and that's in the data sheet I'm looking at right now. If I go to cluster from here, under the XLMiner platform ribbon, and go to k-means, and now I have to start telling it what variables do I want to select. Well, remember, when we talk about clustering, there's the curse of dimensionality that occurs when you have too many variables in a clustering algorithm. It basically increases the multi-dimensional space, ends up not giving you very good results. So you need to be careful how many variables you include. So looking at this right now, and I'll explain what some of these variables mean. I have term code key, which is basically the semester, but it's in a number format. And then there's the RAND function, which I'm not going to include because that is how I selected the 1,000 rows. I have the PIDM key, which is actually just a unique identifier for each row. I'm not going to include that. Let's say I want to add gender to this, which makes sense. You're going to see here now I get an error because gender, the way that it is set up in my data set, is a categorical data set. So I need to do dummy variables for any categorical data before running clustering because it can only handle numerical values for both k-means and the hierarchical clustering. So that's one area you're going to find that happens. The other one, to give you an example, is, for instance, the term GPA. You would think that that would be fine because it's a numeric value, but actually it's not. It is numeric, however, it has missing values in it. So what I usually do to show you how I figure, as I start working on this, and this is a real data mining project I'm trying to work on, I go and I create an Excel table with my data and I start looking at it. So for instance, when it gave me that error on the term GPA, I went to that column, clicked on the down arrow to see what are the values that are in there, and I can see that there are blanks, and that's actually what's causing the problem. So at that point, I can either go through, manually update this. So for instance, I could go here and just choose the blanks. And I can put in 0 as a holder for this and just copy it down through all the blanks. My goodness, there are a lot of blanks. Save it and then move on. But again, this is going to happen for every single attribute that I look at. So it has to be numeric and it cannot have any blanks in there. Otherwise, you'll get an error when going through this. And I also need to create dummy variables for my categorical variables. So this is part of the process that takes a very long time prior to actually doing the clustering itself or any of the algorithms, depending on what the input parameters are for that particular algorithm. So I wanted to keep this in mind. This is part of the reason why this week for your homework, I'm asking you to actually use your real data and do a clustering algorithm because I want you to see what you're going to run into, which is probably what I'm running into right now with this very real data set. So take the time to clean up your data set. You may need to clean it up in different ways for different algorithms depending on that particular algorithm. For instance, some may handle categorical data, some may not. So you need to look at each particular algorithm and see what is the requirement for that particular algorithm. I'm going to work on cleaning up my data set. I hope you are doing the same. And then I'm going to come back with my next video and show you actually how to do the clustering once my data is in the correct format and show you how to interpret the clusters. So stay tuned for the next video. Have a good week.